All right, that sounds familiar. All right, so this is the first class. Again, we continue to want more people to come down. Here we are. We're at Griswold High School. Enter via the Wolverine door, right? It's room 4116. You got to go down a long hallway. You got to pass the main office. You got to go down past a few sets of double doors, make a right turn. And it's about as far away from the door they let us come in as you can go, right? But anyway, my contact information is, you can best reach out by commenting on this video, and I will get in touch with you, and we will get you connected if you want to join. So Fridays at 6:30, Griswold High School. All right. So starting out, being a football official, it takes a lot of time, attention to detail, right? So you got to have courage. I've already talked to lots of new officials, this year, folks both at the college level, at the high school level, right? Courage. So why does it take courage to be a football official? What's so scary about it? Why do you have to be courageous?
You're afraid to make a mistake, number one.
Sure.
You got a lot of people looking at you for decisions, and you don't want to affect the game.
Right, exactly. And honestly, the best thing you can do as a football official is not be remembered, right? The game happens, you're out there, you make the calls you need to make, nobody's surprised, game ends, and it was not up to you, it was up to the players on the field. That's what we're trying to support, right? Obviously, a working knowledge of the rules and mechanics, that's not something that is going to come from this class, right? It comes from a full-time study, and it's really all year long, right? A lot of us take a break from the rule book and we show up again in August to prepare and cram for the test. Then we go through the season, and then January comes around after the banquet, and we're like, put it away, right? Maybe you do basketball, you do baseball, you do softball, you do something else, you do soccer. But honestly, the football rule book is complex. I'd say for me, it took me about 4 seasons before I was really comfortable with the penalty rules. Would you guys agree? The penalty rules alone, right? And that's just one of the 10 rules, right? Because we still have kicks, we have clock. So what I want everyone to know, right, as a new official, even as a first-year official, a second-year official, it's a process. It's a process that takes love of the game to feed the study, right? If this was calculus, a lot more officials would drop out. It isn't calculus. This is fun. This is football, right? We watch it for entertainment, right? Nobody's watching people do math equations for entertainment, right? So we do have the motivation to be here, but if it's not for everybody, right? Because getting a knowledge of rules and mechanics, it's work, right? The next thing is hustle, and we're going to talk about hustle, tact, and poise on the next couple of slides. So, it did not advance. Am I presenting? Yes. Is it going on to the next? I got to go. No. Go to the next slide. Hello. Next slide. Huh. Oh, I see. I got to get into presentation view. There we are. All right. Okay. So we talked about the courage. We talked about rules and mechanics. And I think I've covered these aspects. I think one of the most important things here on this slide is that if you've been watching the game, you understand what's expected. But we've had people join football officiating who didn't actually play, right? We've had people who've adapted and learned. My father's college football coach was famously a swim coach who was forced into football, and he studied it like a class, right? So even if you didn't play, you can be a football official, but you do have to understand why the rules are in place, right? So that's what we're going to try to spend more time doing, is trying to explain why. It's all about safety, right? It's all about fun, and it's all about, frankly, the players enjoying the game. Now, when I talk about hustle, this is something that we hear at clinics all the time, right? Hustle, don't hurry. So what do we mean by hustle, don't hurry? I'll put a couple elements here. So, have you ever experienced any of these things and realized that maybe we could have done something different? Having an injured player and everybody wants to get going and we gotta come on, guy, come on, we gotta get him off the field, right?
Mhm.
When you hurry an injured player off the field, how does that make us look? It makes us look like we're just trying to get out of here. We're just trying to get a paycheck, right? Rushing to get a ball. Why is that a problem? Right? The football, you need the football. It falls away from the receiver. It's rolling around out of bounds. If you run and go get it, even in the middle of the field, right? An umpire, Bruce, the ball's laying at your feet. There's still a bunch of players around. Do you go get the football and leave those players alone? Why not?
You gotta tend to your players, get everybody on the field first. The ball will come to you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they can't play without the football. We can always pump up that play clock again, right? The point is, you go somewhere because you need to be there. Moving with purpose is probably the most important thing that you can learn in this class, right? Knowing why you need to be somewhere. And if you're standing somewhere and you're like, I don't know where to go next, that's when you talk to your mentor. You go back and look at the mechanics, and next time you'll be in the right place, right? If you're in the right place, you're never going to be criticized by a coach because you were right in the right place, right? Maybe you just agree on judgment, but they can't criticize your ability to be in the right place. One thing that, some of you may have seen that famous YouTube video from New Jersey officials where they had the chains, they pulled the chains out, chains the ball. First down was near the sideline, and then they moved the football and made it a first down. Kind of YouTube famous. What had happened was the chains had moved before the measurement. The referee recognized that the chains had moved during the series. He tried to put them back in the same instant he was measuring. Right? Don't do that. There's no hurry. Fix the chains. Then do the measurement. Little things like this. You may not know every possible situation that can happen to you, but if you just follow some basic principles, you can't do a measurement if you don't have the chains in the right place, right? All right. Don't rush penalties. You think it's enough for us to know the rules. The coaches don't even attend these classes, right? They don't know the rules. Don't rush through. Don't definitely. One thing that you're going to always find is that in the rule book in all sports, captains are given a lot of authority. But in high school football, captains are not going to be your decider, right? No head coach is going to delegate to a captain for a tough penalty decision. You need to get that information from the coach, right? And if it's third and 15 and there's holding, maybe they want to decline it and take the result of the play, right? Maybe they don't want to repeat second down, right? So the important thing is that we want to get the call right. We want to get the play correct. I mean, if it's third down and 15, we expect the pass. We get defensive pass interference. We come report to the referee. If we're confident in ourselves, we get the play right. It makes a huge difference because it's a first down, right? 15-yard penalty in high school football, not an automatic first down, right? If it's third and 16, right, we need to know that we're going to have another third down play, and it's going to be third and 1, right? Either way, if the pass interference wasn't really there, we didn't get the call right because maybe we weren't in the right position, maybe we were hurrying instead of hustling, right? So all of that is applicable in this case, all right? Because hurry is indeed a hazard. And I'm sure all of you guys have watched some famous NFL plays that fans love to share where officials blew a defensive pass interference against the Saints in the NFC Championship game a few years ago, where somebody made a call that almost all the time, right, they're at the highest level, right? We're not perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, right? But in almost all of those cases, right, somebody on the crew could have helped, if we're all focused and we're all paying attention. But when you have an opinion, you need to be authoritative without being rude, right? The high school coaches are basically volunteers in Connecticut. They're not paid the way that somebody up at Merrimack is paid, coaching somebody at Holy Cross, right? Somebody at Central Connecticut State. Those coaches are full-time coaches. Our coaches in ECC are teachers for the most part. Their main job is to educate young people. They take a stipend position to coach. Understand that they are just people like you who love the game, who want these kids to have a good experience. They're obviously going to be biased. So be respectful. Don't treat them like they're not adults, right? Even if they're treating you like you're not an adult, you have to return, right? Have you guys had experiences like that before where coaches are all over you, treating you like you don't know what you're doing?
I think they need to.
And do you think sometimes it's a show for the
I
fan?
think they need to for the team or for the fans, whatever.
Mhm.
But the other thing to keep in mind too is a lot of them are learning the rules of learning the game because again, it is a volunteer position. So some schools cycle through coaches a lot.
No doubt. I can't forget last year we had the first ever female high school varsity coach who took a team to the playoff, who had so many injuries, she thought it was safer to not play the game, right? Coaches have to make so many decisions, right? I was a head coach for several years. I couldn't manage it with my family, so I completely respect what these guys have to do. We cannot bring our attitude, if we're going through a divorce, if we're dealing with bills, we're dealing with a job loss, we can't walk out on the field with all that, right? We can't have that negative attitude, right? We have to show poise, but not indifferent, right? It's a bad look when it looks like you're kind of not really interested in what's going on, right? I can't tell you it's always a bad look to put your hands on your hips, but in a certain situation, like when a player just got sacked, it was a big hit, the coach is angry, maybe the kicker got hit. You don't want to seem indifferent, even though we are neutral, right? Instead, when we get together, we want to look like we're actively involved, right? These officials here are preparing for the kickoff and they're ready to officiate. They care about their job on the field, right? Another thing that you want to keep in mind is that this is an athletic position, right? We are athletes. We're a team on the field. Get your physical. Have you guys been checking in with your doctors and following through on, your own physical condition?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, right? I tell my doctor when I get my physical that I'm a football official. I just remind them, right? This is something I really want you to tell me. If I'm not able to go up and down the field, we should probably have someone else, right? We've had officials get injured. I never forget, we had an official tear an Achilles on his first day on a jamboree, right? Very first day, he was in my class. Trained with me, did the test, went out in the field. This doesn't happen all the time. It happened that one time, I think. And what happened was he didn't do the physical things he needed to do to get ready for the season, right? So there are plenty of trainers out there. There's a lot of videos online. There's ways to get prepared, but essentially you want to be physically fit. You want to be safe. You have a heart condition, make sure your doctor says it's okay, right? Mentally, right? A lot of the clinics that we go to tell us about mental training, right? Mental acuity, right? A lot of referees go to clinics and learn about things that make them good managers of people, good crew captains, right? Line of scrimmage officials have to manage coaches, right? You have to be mentally focused. Every play for a line of scrimmage official, you got false start, you got encroachment, you got all of the formation stuff. It's a lot to do. For an umpire, you have to have the mental discipline to deal with angry players and calm the situation down, right? We have to be peacemakers, right? As a back judge, you have to be prepared to make the one call you made all game that decides the winner because you had the pass interference in the corner of the end zone on the last play, right? All of that takes mental fitness, right? But of course, Nothing will get you to be a better football official than snaps. So, um, you know, are there situations where you're going to be surprised? Of course. You can't do any worse though than getting more snaps, get more plays. Go do you guys have your football gear in your car pretty much all the time?
Not in the offseason.
Not in the off season, I agree.
But yeah, they're in the
But-
offseason.
April 1st, because there are college scrimmages out there and a lot of new officials, people watching this video, within a year or two, you might be added to a college scrimmage. You might be invited by one of us, one of our officials. Say, hey, I got a scrimmage locally. Why don't you ride up with me? You know, if you're in the area, we'll get you on the field. We'll rotate you in, right? You head out to a high school scrimmage early in the season with our board, right? We have on-field opportunities, right? It doesn't matter what level, it's going to be beneficial. Of course, you know, the other thing, of course, is video, right? We have the Hubble subscription. We use video a lot. We'll use video today at the end. So generally, the general position is there are 7 positions on many varsity games. There are 5 positions on most varsity games. There are 4 positions or 3 positions at the sub-varsity level. You need to first know your position. But why do you think we need to be prepared to assume any other positions?
In case there's an injury, you need to step up in the middle of the game. That's
Right?
number one.
And the other thing is we might have our sub-varsity assigner call us and say, hey, have you ever had that situation? You're on the schedule to be a wing or an umpire, and the sub-varsity assigner calls you and say, hey, I need you to be the referee today. Our referee can't make it. Happened to me. Happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
My first ever referee assignment, I'll never forget. We had an official who decided in the locker room before the game, he was not mentally ready to referee the football game, and he handed me his white hat. That's unusual. You need to be prepared to assume any of the other positions, but not just because you might have to work it, but we need to know what the other officials are looking at, right? And when I go through video, I'm just going to show one play today, but we're going to look at the play from everybody's perspective, right? Let me turn my phone on silent because we need to know that we're looking in the right place because we don't need 5 sets of eyes watching the football, right? All of our 5 officials or in a youth game, 3 or 4 officials need to be watching their own area. So knowing what the other officials are doing takes the pressure off of us to look there, right? We've all worked with officials who don't follow this practice, and we end up feeling our eyes pushed towards someone else's responsibility. And what does that result in?
You're responsible.
Yeah, you have your own primary responsibility, right? I put mechanics, duties, and responsibilities ahead of rules. I don't know if you guys agree. The rules are critical. Obviously, these 2 things are mandatory, but having mechanical knowledge and understanding what the role is of each official is most important. And like I said, it's not instant. You can study the rule book, you can read the rules, but until you've seen them in application, you won't master the rules, right? We've all seen a crazy play with a crazy ruling. You know, my advice when you get a test question, you get something that comes across your desk, you get that crazy play. Imagine you are the official. Imagine you're making the announcement. Imagine you're the guy who has to tell the referee what you had, right? That's what helps you master rules. That's my opinion. Now, do you guys both attend off-season training?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, as do I, right? There are clinics around. And I'll say this, that most clinics focus more on the top parts here, right? These duties and responsibilities than do on the knowledge and the rules, right? Knowledge and rules is something you do at home with your rule book in your quiet time when you're wide awake, right? There's no audiobook for the rule book this year. There was at one time, a few years ago, somebody actually took the time to read all the rules into a speaker and created an audiobook, like in 2016. It was great. We have the Reading Study Guide as well. Reading Study Guide you can get from SS Distributors. You can get it from Honix. You can get it from other suppliers. You treat it like a class. That's how you learn the rules. You don't master though until you've actually put it together with the video. All right, I'm going to skip this slide just because we've already talked about some things, unless you guys have anything to add about what I've shared up so far.
No.
No.
All right, great. Okay, well, I'll start by just talking about, the basic things that we see in our rule book guide that I've handed out. This is a picture of the football field. The football field, and I'll use my mouse to highlight. Get my mouse over there. There we go. So one of the things that's really important here is this restricted area. Now in high school, Connecticut high school football, are we able to expand that to the 20s?
No.
No, that's at the other level, right?
Mhm.
So this is still accurate for high school football. Now, what's nice about schools like NFA, Montville, East Lyme, right? Those things are marked out and they're printed on the field by the people who installed the turf. Easy, easy, easy peasy. Griswold now too, right?
Mhm.
Here in the place where we are right now, we've got this nice artificial surface. All of this stuff was there. You go down to Plainfield Youth, not so much, right? So we have to know the locations on the field. So what are the important ones? I would say the most important is the areas, like I said, that the restricted area is that the coaches and players have to be. This restricted area is so-called because that's for us. That's for the referees, the wing officials. That's where we get to operate. That is 2 yards back, 2 giant steps from the sideline. That's our place to work during the game, right? The coaches often want to creep into that area. We need to remind them that for safety, so that everybody can be safe, to keep their players back so that they cannot get in trouble and bump into us, right? It's a pretty significant penalty if we collide with an official and coaches collide with an official, right? In the restricted area. And I broke a collar. I run it into a camera in the restricted area. We got to be cognizant, but we have to stay off the field, right? So this restricted area is because we don't want the runner to go out of bounds behind us, right? I can show you some videos. We saw one last week where an official was at the numbers pre-snap. Now that's the old way, right? In the old days, a lot of times officials would walk out onto the field, right? Not anymore. We need to observe that. All right, now, what are the most important lines on the field?
What are they?
Yeah, what are the most important lines on the field? The one that matter the most on a football field?
Sidelines and your
Sidelines and goal line?
Yeah, I'd say so. So you can see that in a football field, the sideline is all the way down the field, even into the end zones. The field of play is the 100 yards between the end zones. The goal line and the sideline, as soon as you touch those lines, something happens, right? You carry the ball, you break the plane of the goal line, it's a touchdown. You go out of bounds, it's where the ball crossed the sideline that becomes the dead ball spot, right? So those lines are exactly critically important. Now, in addition to those lines, we create lines, the line of game, the line of scrimmage, right? Football is all about terrain, gaining territory, right? It's almost a simulation of military action, right? You're advancing. That's why there's so many military references here, right? But we're on a grid. It's organized. The hardest thing about football, I think, is that they count up to 50 and then they count back down to 0, right? It's like, oh, okay, I got to do math across the 50-yard line to figure out what this penalty is, but we don't need to do that, right? All the penalties typically are 5, 10, or 15. We'll learn in this class, especially in the mechanics field sessions, how to get those penalties correct without having to do mathematics in our head, right? An additional thing about the restricted area is that the chains are going to be kept off the field. So we want the chains, which will always be opposite the press box, need to be at the back of the restricted area. Big mistake a lot of new officials make is not getting them back off the field. I don't know how many times have you guys been at football games and the down box comes out and it's bent.
Yep. Everyone.
The only reason they're bent is because they weren't far enough back and we didn't educate the crew effectively, right? Because players on the field that are running full speed will not stay within these lines. They will end up way out in the track sometimes just because of their momentum, right? So we need to be aware that we're not only officiating in the field of play, we're also officiating out of bounds action too. So all of this area is important. Now, I'm also going to point out these numbers. They're not just cosmetic. They're 9 yards from the sideline. That tells us where timeouts are allowed to happen. So coaches can all talk to their players as long as they're outside the numbers. If we don't have numbers on the field, we need to know where 9 yards is, right? Remember the old Griswold Hughes had little lines, but no numbers, but little lines. Those are important. Coaches know where they're allowed to stand, but we got to remind them sometimes. Got to be outside those numbers. We also have a 3-yard line. What's the purpose of the 3-yard line? Right? After a touchdown, right? You want to snap that, kick that field goal for the extra point. You got to snap it from there. You want to go for 2. High school football now. This is not the NFL. Same spot. 3-yard line, right? All right. So study this field if you haven't worked the game. Now we have some terminology. Quickly go through. Number 1, that's the end zone. Number 2, end line.
And line.
Right?
Yep.
What is number 3? It's not really directly on it.
The box.
Restricted area, players box.
Yeah, players.
Box, our field.
Right. So the sideline's not numbered here, but this is restricted area. Number 5, what do you call that?
Hash mark.
Yeah, commonly called hash marks. This is why the rule book can be so difficult. Those are called the inbounds marks in the rule book. Inbounds marks. We know them as hash marks, right? They're interchangeable. Those exactly cut the field into thirds. So if you divide the field up into thirds, it's like 53 yards across. So 53 divided by 3, that's where the hash mark is. Another 53 divided by 3 is the next hash mark. It's perfectly divided evenly. The NFL, the NCAA, they're narrower, right? Now, if we play on a field that's made for NCAA, do we need to change the location of the football? Do we need to know where those marks should be?
We have to ask the coaches to see how they want to play for the game.
Right.
That would be the best thing.
Yeah, I think so, right? So
And the other thing is they're putting the goalposts are smaller than high school.
that's right. You'll notice that the goal line, which is marked in 4 here, right, goes all the way from sideline to sideline. So those location of those pylons is really important. And you'll also see the field goal post, which is actually in the rule book. That's called the goal, right? It's not called the putt. It's not called the post. It's not called the uprights. It's called the goal, right? So that goal is not as wide as the hash marks, as you mentioned, right? But it's pretty wide. It's like, what, 20 feet, 18 feet?
Or 23, isn't it?
23, yeah, thank you. 23, 18, I think is,
23 lines.
yeah, I think 18 might be NCAA. And the point is, a lot of this is for the grounds crew to deal with, right? The schools position that. You get to a field, you're not sure about the width of the uprights. Guess what? We're going to play, right? We're going to play, right? So those uprights are set. All right, so here's the answer key for those locations. Again, I've got 3 marked down as sidelines. I really need to move the 3. But again, it's along the sidelines. It is on both sides. All right, now, in addition, we have some other lines, and I'm going to go ahead and just label those for you. You got the team box and the restraining lines. You've got the 9-yard marks. You've got the coaches area where the coaches are allowed to stand. When I say coaches area, that means players are not allowed to stand up there to give signals. They do, though, don't they?
They do.
A lot of times the guys are holding up that card, right? I'm not going to trouble that as long as they get out of this so-called coaches area once the ball is imminent to be snapped, right? They walk up, they give defensive signals, they give offensive signals, they yell at their player, they yell at you maybe. They get it clear, right? Now, if you're in the middle of the field, hey, no problem. Referee, umpire, back judge, don't notice them, right? But for the wing officials, it makes your life very difficult if they don't get out of the way, especially on an interception, fumble return, punt return. Oh boy, clear them out. That's only for.
You give them so many seconds to get out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be
on like 3 seconds, before it's snap.
right. And, the snap is imminent. They should be getting out. But you don't want to be turning and looking at them while the snap is imminent. Say, hey, coach, can you get out of the way? And then you look back and they're running around. I'm like, oh, I didn't see the snap, right? So we have to be able to keep our focus on the field. So verbal reminders are better than stare downs.
Yep.
Right?
One thing on this, Mike, just the terminology, training lines, not something you hear about a lot.
Good.
It should be kind of viewed as it's like your office. Nobody should be in your office. There shouldn't be anybody, should be nobody
Yep.
really inside that restraint.
Yeah, the collarbone was a camera inside the restraining line, outside of the team box at about the 15-yard line, big telephoto lens. The guy told me it was $1,000 lens that I broke off when I ran by. Yeah, they can't be there, right? You got to keep them out. I don't care if they're the sheriff of the county. They can't bring their entourage and stand at the pylon. They got to be clear back, right? Because of safety.
Gotta give us room to do it again.
Because we can't watch, or if we need to
We're
look.
on the ground, headed the other way, how do you officiate something?
Right. And if I need to
You're
look,
pushed down on the ground, you're not gonna see what happens.
yeah, we've seen it, right? We've seen
Oh,
it
yeah.
happen. We'll talk about in this class how to avoid getting run over, getting tripped up, about how we keep our distance, how we make sure we keep an area of control without having to run. Nobody's going to keep up with these fast players. They get younger every year, right? Relative to us, right? So that means that we have to move with purpose, but also not get taken out. All right. Now turning the field and zooming in a bit, we have another line, and I'm going to hold up the football here in the camera. So this football defines the length of the neutral zone, right? So this neutral zone gives the defense and the offense a line of scrimmage right through each point of the football. So we place the football generally on a line, right? Especially on first down. So that means that the offense's line of scrimmage is behind that line, right? The defense's line of scrimmage is pretty much on that line. So this is 12 inches long. That's a third of a yard. It's significant enough that there should be a gap between the teams before the snap. We should be able to see daylight. We should be able to see our fellow official. Hey, I can see you over there as we're judging false start, encroachment, formation, right? So this ball is the length of the neutral zone. Now, again, we have two lines of scrimmage. You can see here team A, that is the offense. Team B, that is the defense. We don't use that terminology with coaches. They don't know what we're talking about. That is for test questions, right?
Sure.
A and B. For the purposes of the rule book, A retains that designation, even if there's an interception or turnover. They're still team A. Now they're playing defense, right? But at the start of the play, they get their A and B designation. All right. Now, this is the position that most new officials are going to be in that jamboree, in that first week of the youth at Killingly Youth, or this year. Are we working Norwich? I don't think so. We're working New London, maybe. No, neither one. We're working Westerly.
Yeah,
we're down to Westerly. We go to Groton. We're probably going to be 3-man, especially in the 8s and the 10s. 12s, are we going to 4?
12, 14 to go for.
Okay. So the only difference between this slide and the 4 official slide is there's an umpire who's going to be positioned 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, with the younger kids, you can go 7.
Yeah. So given that the linebackers are going to be in this position, they're probably in front of you, right? So the wing officials, we call them wings because they're out wide. They are off the field. So we have a blue spot for LJ, that is the line judge. And we have HL, I think in high school, that's still the head linesman.
Yep.
Some people call them the headline judge. Either way, the H, the L, They're the wing officials. They're across the field from each other. They're marking forward progress. They're staying off the field. The H is controlling the chains, right? So there's a lot to do in a three-man crew. Now, who's this R guy?
He's the referee.
That's the only one that gets to be called the name that we call all of us, right? We're all referees, right? But there is a referee in a football game. So that referee has a white hat. Everyone's looking at him. They think the referee makes all the calls, right? The referee makes almost none of the calls. I'm just the messenger.
Spokesperson.
Yeah, the spokesperson for the crew.
Interpreter for the game.
Right, exactly. And if you know what you're doing and if you're a head linesman on a game, you can make your referee look great. If you're in the right place, you do the right things, you move in the right ways, right? If you're a head linesman, you don't have any idea what you're doing, you didn't do the classes, you didn't give the mechanics training a shot, you didn't actually talk in the pregame and explain if you had questions, the referee is going to be the one who's going to probably get the brunt of the complaint, right? How did you miss that formation? How did you miss that encroachment? The referee is going to have to talk to the coaches about that, right? Three-man crew, we're going to put you out there. You're going to learn. Youth coaches, they don't even get stipends, right? They are full-on volunteers, right? They are Monday morning quarterbacks.
I believe it's Sunday afternoon football.
They do. So, but it's great. A lot of times it's really good snaps, right? Really good dead ball officiating, really good opportunities, right? So essentially,
After that, like going back to the original class, we were mechanics first, rules second.
Mhm.
This is where you focus on youth games, mechanics first,
yes,
rules second.
absolutely. Because you think that it's hard for us to learn the rule. These volunteers are more interested in weight limits and whether or not people are legally allowed to be running backs than they are what is pass interference, what's an untouchable pass, right? Which we don't even have in high school football, right? But they don't know what the rules are under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter with the clock. You're going to be telling them they're going to be learning for the first time, right? So if we blow it, but we work the game as well as we can, we're confident, we let the kids decide the result of the game on the field, we're doing the right thing. You know, we look the part, we hustle, we don't hurry, we show tact and poise, we're not arrogant, right? We have a good attitude, we care about the kids. You might be working 4 of these games in a day. Happened to me a lot last year, right? Get some great exercise, get some concessions, always bring some cash. They don't always feed us. I generally buy my hot dogs, I buy my concessions. Bring your cash. Yeah, some of them write checks at the end of the game, right? A lot of them write checks at halftime on the last game you're working. You know, I'm just thinking specifically of Wyndham Youth and Plainfield Youth, right? They will take care of you if you look like you care, right? And, you know, they really do protect us. You know, I think one of the most important things about youth football is that they really need us and they know they really need us. The people running these leagues are so grateful that we're there. You know, you may not get that impression from parents who've seen their little child get hit hard for the first time. They may not give you the appreciation. When you get over to the concession stand, you go in to get to talk to the people about getting your pay for the day. They're so happy to have you, right? So this is the homework assignment. I have handed out a digital rule book that I printed. It's in color. It's got photos. It is not the official rule book, but I have rewritten it to be as understandable as possible. If you guys see anything that looks like a typo, please let me know. It's been a labor of love I've been working on for the past 6 years. I've been slowly building it. I'm currently working on a new one, Rule 3, the clock rules. I'm almost done. So I really like to focus on just 5 of the rules. So 1 and 2, that's the definitions of all the stuff we talked about and more. The rules, number 2, which tells you what is a block, what is a pass, what is a kick. So important that we know the language of the game, right? And then finally, I really think we need to know the clock. How do we know the period's over, right? How do we know when the rules change under 2 minutes, right? How do we know when to start the clock, right? That's rule 3. Then you got rule 7, encroachment, formations, false start, pass interference, right? What is a forward pass? What's a fumble? All of that's in rule 7, right? And then of course, rule 9, major fouls, blindside blocks we talked about last week, right? The face mask penalties, right? All the unsportsmanlike conducts, all the things that we really got to get the big ones. So I focus on those in this class. I'm not going to be able to focus on rule 5, which is what makes things a first down. You need to study that. That is just something that I don't devote a ton of time to in this session because that's just something that I think is so. It's one of the shortest rules, 5. 4 is a really short rule about the inadvertent whistle, right? Rule 6, it's kicks. It's 5 pages. But most of the confusion in football rules comes from rule 6. Do you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff happens on kicks. It's such a weird set of rules. So really, all I need people to do who've watched this video, come into the classes, is learn these definitions because muff, fumble, often misunderstood. What is a pass? What is a kick? I just had someone send me a play about a holder who muffs the snap. You know what that means. Then the ball is loose. Then the kicker kicks it through the uprights, right? We know common language, right? Okay, well, that's a fumble. No, it's not by definition. So we need to know what is a fumble. And it's not even a legal kick, even though he threw his foot through the ball and it went through the uprights. Doesn't make it a kick by rule. It's an illegally kicked ball, right? So knowing those definitions will help you on the funky plays, right? So that's why we have to start with the plays. When you go to your referee and say, hey, he kicked that ball through the uprights, but it wasn't right. Something was wrong about it. The referee's going to have questions, right? Well, he wasn't holding it, right? He didn't control the snap, right? All of that starts with the definition. And is there any questions you guys have about anything we covered? All right, so let me get into a play and then we'll discuss it real quick. Get my mouse over here. So I will stop the sharing, then we will get a play. So I do want to talk about that first down situation. And I want to talk about what we can do to make it better because it is just such a great play.
One to talk about?
Yeah, I love that play. Don't find it though, I'll just switch to a different one because I had it queued up and then it's not here. Okay. Well, let's talk about a different play. So first and foremost, I think that we need to understand that video is not a criticism of the officials, right? We don't watch video because we want to prove, hey, that guy doesn't know what he's doing, right? Because we can all be that guy, right? At any given time, we're going to make a mistake. I've made mistakes. I mean, my first ever inadvertent whistle, I can see myself on video doing this initially because I knew nobody blows an inadvertent whistle without doing it on purpose. Everyone blows their inadvertent whistle totally on purpose. It's inadvertent by rule. It's never accidental, right? It's because we believe the ball was dead. We blew our whistle. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it will, right? We've also all had formations we've missed. We've had motions we've missed. We've had holds we've missed. Clear holds where the guy's totally taken down and we're not looking in the wrong spot. We held on to this double team too long. And right next to it, there was a chop block, right? It's happened to all of us. And this is not why we watch these plays. We watch these plays because we need to be aware that we learn if we put ourselves in the position where we are actually working the game, pretending we're the official, right? We are not really at risk of making that mistake ourselves because we've already worked that play, because we worked that play as if we were on the field. All right, so
I would say if you're getting advice from a fellow official or a teammate, it's constructive criticism and they want to help you, which is why they're giving you the advice.
That's right.
If they didn't want to help you, they wouldn't care to tell you anything. Right
No.
or wrong, so,
No doubt about it.
yeah, they read it here, and make it your own.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's look at this play. This is a 2023 play, Griswold versus East Tech. And I'll share it, of course, in the video. Now, last time I did video, it was really jumpy and glitchy. I will try to make sure that it doesn't happen this time. Let me just, I got to change with the sharing and move it over there. So just bear with me. Don't worry. We will get this play. We'll get this play out. It just, technology. Okay, it's there. Now I'm going to change the sharing. I've done this before where I've forgotten to share the screen, and I got to share sound. Oops, I got to change it. This is for all you aspiring Zoom people out there. Check the boxes to share sound and optimize for video sharing. All right, the video is visible.
Yeah.
You guys can see it. Okay. I'm just going to play through it once.
Oh, there we go.
Here? Yeah, okay. All right, so let's take a look. Oh, it's not choppy this time. All right, well, we got an incomplete pass. No big deal. Let's watch it again. Incomplete, right? Big hit. Tough hit. That's the fault of the quarterback for throwing it too high, right? Throw it high across the middle, your receiver is going to get blown up. That's just the way it goes, right? That's football, right? Is that really how we rule this?
Not more.
Not anymore, right? So one of the new rules that came in a couple years ago is along with blindside blocks, now you're also not allowed to hit receivers that are defenseless unless you do what? What are the three things you can do? You have three possibilities. You're allowed to what?
Football move, complete a catch.
Yeah, well, for the receiver
Yeah.
to get it, that's not a fumble, right? That's an incomplete pass, right? There was no control.
You can come in with two hands and push.
You can push that receiver.
You
Right.
can come in and wrap him like a big hug.
Yeah,
You don't know what a wrap is, do a wrap tackle.
right.
Or you can make a bona fide attempt for that ball. And
Right.
if you inadvertently hit him going for the ball, it'd be illegal.
It's not illegal if you are trying to intercept the pass. So let me just zoom in and just see. I mean, looking at freeze frames, I'm just going to freeze it right here because I don't just want to look at that action. Let's take a look at everything, right? We have our headlines at the top of the screen, next to the two, right? This is second down and more than 10, right? We get second down and 11. Does that mean it's guaranteed to be a pass?
No.
No, not at all, right? If it's a third and 11, we might say, oh, we expect there to be a pass. Now, in this situation, you can see the lineman. Would you call this pass blocking?
Yes.
Looks like pass blocking to me,
Mhm.
right? As an official, nobody except the referee should really be watching the quarterback, right? Everyone is watching their keys, watching their responsibilities. The players will tell you what the play is almost all the time, right? So I'm going to highlight first the official, the receiver at the top of the screen. In a five-man crew, this guy is the head linesman's responsibility. Is this receiver in any danger of getting fouled
No.
at this point?
Nope.
No. There is no reason to be staring this guy down, right? The umpire, who's standing in the offensive backfield, he is walking forward. Why is he walking forward?
Get out of the way. And let's see the lineman better. See if there's holding.
Right. As they drop back into the pass blocking posture, right?
Find a new-
You want to get the angle so you can see the action, right? You're not stoic, but the head linesman isn't moving.
Mhm.
Why is he holding?
But you get better vision by a broader, wider angle.
Right. The wider you are, the more you can see, right? So this official that's wide, he doesn't have to move. Move with purpose, right? Hustle, don't hurry. There's no reason to chase this receiver down in his pass route. We might be able to help. Do you notice that there is a offensive lineman who's in very bad posture? Very bad posture. This guy is somebody that the referee and the umpire may not be able to see, right? If you have a receiver in a pass route as a wing official, by all means, right? You're going to help on pass coverage. You're going to help when this guy's threatened. Same time, this block, the best guy to look at that is our wing official, right? If he's looking at that, he may be able to judge legal or illegal. I'm not going to say in this freeze frame whether that's legal or illegal. So I'm going to back it up. Let's watch it. This has nothing to do with the big action that happened. Started a play. We don't know what it is, but we got two receivers on this side. We got two on the other side.
I'll say just from a formation standpoint, for people, that's a quad formation.
Right.
You would
2 and 2.
Yep. 2nd and 11. So your mind goes, okay, probably a pass, but not necessarily a pass.
True. Exactly. Have some football IQ. In addition, in a 5-man crew that this was, right? We know that our wings and our back judge are just 3.
Yep.
We have 4 receivers, right? And we have a back in the backfield that might go out into a route as well. Everyone needs to know what their primary and secondary responsibilities are. Now, in a balanced formation, in this particular case, the back judge is going to lean towards the line judge, correct? That's not something those of you at home have to know. It's just something that we learn, right? That way the head linesman knows, hey, I've got both of those guys, right? I'm not going to get help from the back judge initially. So my initial read is going to be, if I read pass, I need to know what those 2 receivers are doing. Now, are these guys in press coverage right now? Are they close to those receivers?
No.
No. So we don't need to worry about imminent foul, imminent illegal blocks, a cut, a hold. None of that can happen until they close the gap, right? Now, do we have imminent contact between this defensive end and this lineman?
Yeah.
Imminent. As well as the next guy in with the guard, as well as this guy with his guard. There's a lot for the umpire to look at on this play because there's going to be imminent contact, and the referee, as we saw in the earlier still, the referee probably couldn't see all of it either. So that's why it's so important. So let's just play through it and let's just see. Okay, I'll back it up. Let's play it again. Let's just focus on this left tackle. Jump back too far. There we go. Okay. Again, initially, on the freeze frame, boy, it looked like a hold. Obvious hold, right? That defender was getting past him. His arm was way outside the frame, right? Is that really a hold?
Was it? No.
No,
No.
not at all. Because the guy was knocked down sideways without needing to be held restricted. That arm was out there, putting the guy at risk. You might want to tell him, move your feet a little bit better, but not a hold. We need to see the whole thing, right? We need to see the whole action. Now, what about the action by the left guard? That's an unusual stance, isn't it? Got his hips down pretty low, right? Maybe he's going to cut. I don't know. Kind of a weird formation, real position to be in. Let's see what his initial move is. No, I think I got a little bit. What's his initial move? Great, right? Now, as an umpire, do you stay with that guard when he's got great feet, great position? He's getting kind of driven back, but he's keeping his body in position, or do you move on to another block?
You move on, but you keep a visual vision so you can see stuff going on.
Right. And that would be the umpire.
It could be, I don't know what time of the game it is. Could be just be tired. A lot of kids, you see a lot of linemen do that just to get the oxygen to the back of the head,
Yeah, so
Especially the linemen will do that all the time.
So what I notice is by the time the snap is imminent, he's back up.
Correct.
Right? He's back up in his old position, right?
A lot of linemen will do that.
Yeah, just to kind of rest,
Right.
right? Now let's take a look at the snapper. The snapper is the third guy in on this. Let's see what he does. Does he have imminent contact? It's a double team, right? We never have problems with double teams. Almost never, right? Unless one guy goes low and one guy goes high. But if you see a double team, both guys are up high, move on, right? The offense has just decided they're going to devote an extra player to that guy, leaving somebody unblocked. You congratulate that player on getting double teamed and say, you're so good they had to put two people on you. That was not a hold, right? We're not going to call a hold on that situation. All right. So the interesting thing here, though, is the umpire does have work to do, right? So we do, as officials, have to look at multiple matchups during this play. Now we have a guard on the other side. Is that also the umpires? It's also him, but he gets in the double team. So we're clear. What about this tackle on the near side?
Is the quarterback righty or lefty?
I believe he's right-handed.
Yeah.
You'll know this in pregame, by the way.
Yeah.
Can't tell by his position, but let's just see. What does he throw with? He's right-handed.
Yeah, so it is your responsibility because the referee's got the other tackle.
Yeah, the referee is actually going to be looking at that tackle we started with.
Correct.
He's going to be looking through the center,
right.
that referee. But like I said, and at the moment of truth, the arm position was probably invisible because the guard was being driven back.
Right.
And was probably shielded.
The side judge really has a better view of that tackle than
the wing up here, right?
Guard.
Right. And the tackle on the near side, I don't think he does anything.
No.
Well, he's there. Now, have you guys seen officials call holds like this? Call that a hold?
No.
I've seen it. We shouldn't.
Because they're playing. He's not even making a time.
Yeah. So that I want everybody who's watching the video to understand what Bruce just pointed out. Right? What did you say, Bruce?
He's not making an attempt to get away from it.
The defense.
The defensive guy.
Right? Officiate the defense.
Right.
This defender did not lose anything.
He didn't lose anything.
Because he didn't have any motivation to drive into the back.
That's it.
Yeah, although the offense's arms were outside the frame, right? It looked almost like a bear hug. That's not a hold because it didn't take a step away from the defender. So holding is an area of study they've written books about. Just the holding, right? So we've just now covered the entire offensive line. Let's look at the receivers. A lot of times officials spend a lot of time on initial reads. I'm going to pause it right here. So we have how many receivers are actually in tight coverage right now? One, right? The bottom of the screen. That official that's looking at that guy should probably stay with that, right? All the officials don't need to be looking at that though, right? We're going to trust the official at the bottom of the screen. He probably is going to see that out of the corner of his eye and maybe stay with it because it's near the sideline. The back judge has also got that primarily, right? He's going to probably see that. The other three receivers, it's just like you said, right, Bruce, with the linemen, know where they are.
Right.
Keep them in mind. But we mammals have this forward vision, right? We got to keep our focus forward. So we're gonna need to look at guys who are in the potential of getting into a matchup. All right, now let's get to what everybody saw initially. What jumps out at everybody? There is only one play that really mattered on this play, right? We got the defender. So again, reminding us of the three things he can do. He could have wrapped. He could have open hand, two-hand pushed. He could have gone for the football. Did he do any of those three things?
Nope.
No. This is a foul. Now, this foul is in the blindside block category, although we call it unnecessary roughness against a defensive receiver, right? It comes down the list of defensive players, right? So that's why it's kind of like the blindside block rule we talked about last week, right? Similar, not the same, right? This is not an automatic first down, is it? Not automatic.
No.
Let's see, where were we on the field? We're going to enforce this from
Second and 12.
33, actually. 33-yard line. That means not half the distance.
No.
But we are going to go 15. This was 2nd and 11. Will we have a first down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, not because of the play, because of the yardage.
Right. And now, Bruce, tell me, how are we going to get the enforcement correct? When we
Know
enforce
where
it?
the previous spot was,
Definitely, right?
definitely all the time,
The whole crew should know
where
That's-
it was,
that down box guy had better not jog down the field,
like they always do.
right? They better not flip that down box over to 3rd down just because they saw an incomplete pass, right? Got to make sure we teach these guys to stay still. You see laundry on the field? Don't do anything. Stay. Because what are you going to do as an umpire? You're going to go to that previous spot, right? You're going to turn around. Now, how do you know what 15 yards looks like?
It comes, it's just a natural thing, you know.
Yeah. Don't we have a little signal we do
We
to
have
each other?
3, 1 is 5, 2 is 10, and 3 is 15,
Right. And there's big marks every 5 yards.
every 5 yards.
So you can see that we're on the 3rd little tick mark.
Yeah.
We got to go, if we go to the first 5 yards, it'll be the 3rd tick mark in the next section. 10 yards will be the next tick mark in that next section. 15 will be the 3rd area. You just go to that next spot. You don't have to count to 15 in your head, right?
Right.
You know, maybe a lot of guys do the
Count the 3.
robotic. Yeah, you really only have to move to the next location. It's going to still be the 3rd mark from that big line. It's going to be the 2nd mark after a big line. It doesn't matter. Go to that geographical position. Lateral location matters as well. So that's
Yep,
why.
you want to know where the previous, where the ball was, center, hash, wherever, goal call.
Right. And unfortunately, in
Because
this
the
video,
coaches will look
Yes.
at that. They're gonna call a play on where the ball is
Mhm.
placed.
yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have video of the dead ball officiating. We don't have the guys walking off the penalty. But I will tell you that when we're walking off that penalty, the umpire goes to the spot where we're walking it off from, checks with both wing officials. One of the 2 officials goes with the umpire to the new location. They double check. The other wing official holds. He's double checking. That means there's 3 officials primarily responsible for every enforcement. And then the referee and the back judge should also know, right?
Mhm.
But in a 3-man crew,
And the field's not marked.
the referee has to signal and walk it off.
Yeah.
And it's still a 3-man job, right?
Yeah.
3 people are responsible for penalty enforcement every time. It drives an umpire crazy when the wings aren't paying attention, right? So as a new official, you will learn from your umpire, you know, what penalty enforcement. If you're not sure, let the umpire go first. If you're sure, go, because you can help the umpire. I mean, yeah, there's people and stuff in the way sometimes. So anyway, any other comments about this? Yep. I remember there was a lot of discussion about this play when it happened, right? It was the first year of the defensive receiver rule. And it was right here. Well, it wasn't right here, but because Griswold is home.
Yeah, it was good.
It was here. It was right here.
Yep, and the reason for that, like we started off with, a lot of our rules are safety related.
Mhm.
Look at that receiver, he landed almost on.
That's right.
So,
Exactly. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here, for your participation. I hope a lot of people who view this get a lot out of it. And I hope to see more attendance going forward. We'll be right back here on the, today's the 21st, so we're right here on March 28th, 6:30 p.m., room 4116 in Griswold High School, the Wolverine entrance. So join us so we can have even more participation. I hope we get more veterans as well. So I really appreciate everybody being here. And I hope your daughter watches the video. Great. All right. I will stop the recording. And actually, I will just end it.